we are looking into different component parts of a small aircraft. So you might, I would like to take a representation of an aircraft. You might observe here, this is a small aircraft which might accommodate two or four peoples in this aircraft. I would like to explain the different component of this aircraft. So coming to our different component parts of this aircraft, I would like to take the first part as an engine. You can observe the engine is placed in the front portion of the aircraft. The engine. Mm, the following figure shows the component parts of an aeroplane. Each of the above components will now be described briefly. The first part, that is engine. The main purpose of providing an engine on the aircraft is to make available the force for propelling the aircraft through the air. According to the method of propulsion, the aircraft can be classified in the following three categories. That is, based on the engine, the aircraft is further classified into three different parts. That is, the aircraft which runs with the piston engine, the jet engine, and the rocket engine. So these different types of engine, I'm not going to explain the different types of engine. If you are more interested in learning about this engine, I would like to provide some of the articles related to this aircraft, but I would like to explain the different parts briefly. That is, we will move on to our next part, that is the flaps. The flaps, as it is mentioned in the diagram itself, you can observe these are the flaps of a aircraft. Coming to the flaps, a flaps is a hinged section of a airplane wing used in landing or taking off. The flaps, when projected into the air, produces an immediate reduction in the speed of the aircraft, and thus they are intended to serve as air brakes. They are fitted only to the inner portion of the wing, and it is so arranged that the flaps on either side are pulled down together. So they are somewhat similar to that of ailerons, and it is so arranged that they can be operated by the pilot from his cabin itself. The flaps provides necessary lift at the low speed, and hence they are helpful for landing the aircraft satisfactorily. Thus they serve as an important control during the landing operation of the aircraft. These are some of the jobs of a flaps. The flaps are basically used as a air brakes. We will move on to our next part, that is fuselage. Fuselage. Where is the fuselage? This is the fuselage. Fuselage is nothing but the structure of an aircraft, the body of an aircraft. It provides a space for accommodation of the plant, fuel cockpit, cargo, passengers, mail, service tables, ovens, bathrooms, etc. It must possess the following characteristics. That is, the fuselage is nothing but the body of an aircraft. It should possess some of the characteristics, like it is shaped to be fine point at the rear end, and yet it should not be too fine so as to make it unable to resist twisting stresses due to the wind. The second point is, it must be large enough to give sufficient tankage space, but at the same time it should be as small as possible to reduce the wind resistance. It should have enough depth for strength, but it should not be very deep, because in that case the side area may become very large, which is undesirable for safety and efficiency. These are some of the characteristics or required characteristics of fuselage. We will move on to our next part, that is a propeller. The propeller, you can see here, these are the two propellers. The propeller is provided in the conventional piston engine as well as in the turbo propulsion engine. It has usually two or more blades which are driven round in a circular path. The blades deflect air backwards with an acceleration, and thus forward thrust is imparted to the aeroplane. When the engine and propeller are in front, the machine is described as a tractor type. When the engine and air screws are behind air screws are behind the wing, it is known as the pusher installation. The later type is generally not preferred. That is, the pusher installation is not preferred. Next, the three controls. The three controls. An aircraft is as and the aircraft in space can move in three principal axes, namely the x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis, as shown in the figure. The movement of aircraft about the x-axis is called as a lateral or rolling movement. This axis passes through the center line of nose and tail of the aircraft. Center line of the nose and tail of the aircraft. A hinged flap known as aileron. A hinged flap known as aileron is fixed. So these are called as a aileron. Is fixed in the trailing edge of the wing near the wingtip to serve as control of the aircraft along x-axis or longitudinal axis. The aileron is rigged in such a way that when one wing is pulled up, that is other wing is pulled down. The net effect of doing this operation simultaneously is to give a very powerful rolling control to the aircraft about its axis. The function of aileron is to enable the pilot to balance the aeroplane when it is tilted by a gust of wind. It also permits to tilt the machine purposefully. Say when an aeroplane is describing a circle and it is described to tilt it laterally. The movement of aircraft about y-axis is called as the pitching. The axis passes through the center line of the wings. You can see here the center line of the wings, and it is perpendicular to the x-axis. The axis passes through the y-axis movement is passes through the center line of the wings and is perpendicular to the x-axis movement, right? Perpendicular to the x-axis movement. The elevator in the form of two flaps is provided at the extreme rear end of the fuselage to control the pitching or up and down movement of the aircraft. The elevator is capable of moving up and down through an angle of 50 degree to 60 degree. The flaps of elevator are hinged to a fixed horizontal surface known as a stabilizer or tailplane. So these are some of the controls. When the elevator flap is raised, there is an increased air pressure on it, which results in the tail to go down and nose to point up. When the air pressure are equal at the top and bottom of the flaps, the elevator is in the neutral position and the aircraft flies along the normal line of flight. The movement of aircraft about the z-axis is called as the yawing. The movement of aircraft in the z direction is called as yawing.